We're going to continue talking about technology. The future is digital, that much is clear. And will digital cities exacerbate or narrow inequality? Well, our next panel, moderated by Emily Chang, will explore the transformations underway in urban society, featuring Jean Liu, president of Didi, Carlo Ratti, director of the MIT Senseable City Laboratory, and Neil Shen, steward of Sequoia Capital, founding and managing partner, Sequoia Capital China. Emily, all yours.
Thanks to Jean, Neil, and Carlo for joining us. Jean is joining us from Beijing, Neil is in Shenzhen, and Carlo is in Italy. So very excited to hear your perspectives from China. The country seems to have bounced back from the initial impact of COVID faster than anywhere else, but also the pandemic arrived there first, and I'm sure that was terrifying. I'd love to hear from you, Jean, what that was like as a business leader and as a human that first month in the pandemic. Give us some of your personal experience.
Yeah, I have to say it's been a crazy month, and the most memorable moment was the Chinese New Year Eve. I remember very vividly, at that time, Wuhan just announced a lockdown. And there were, no public transportation. So all the core team members of Didi got together on Zoom, and we discussed the next steps. And I remember my colleague volunteered himself to go out there and organize the task force, basically a volunteering driver fleet to support the local healthcare givers. It was a very touching moment because I heard the fireworks at the background and the kids chattering at the background. So that was the most memorable moment for me.
Now, Neil, you're not only an investor, you are the co-founder of Ctrip, one of the most prominent travel companies in China. At the beginning of this, did you think this was going to be catastrophic?
Absolutely. Fortunately, I have the experience back, 17 years ago when the SARS hit China. I remember I was, president and CFO of Ctrip, and our, basically booking very much come down to almost like a zero, within a very short period of time. And this time around, at the very, beginning of, the new year, I think everyone is very concerned, especially people who are in the travel industry. I'm pretty sure that's very true to the Ctrip management. But the good thing is COVID is well under control within relatively short period of time, and we see travel actually coming back pretty quickly. I think business travel really back to normal probably toward the end of the second quarter, and leisure travel also has been picking up, including people actually traveling to the local destinations. The suburbans, actually you see some very dramatic pickup because people cannot travel overseas.
Interesting. Carlo, your work involves gathering unprecedented amounts of data from cities around the world. And I'd love the 360-degree view. How are cities around the world doing mid-pandemic? Hope for a vaccine, but still no vaccine yet as we head into winter months.
Yeah, so I think, we certainly will get back to normal. Now, we still don't know if that is going to be in a few months, if it's going to take a bit longer, but we're certainly going back to normal. I think, however, there's one lesson I think it's very important that we should probably keep with us following the pandemic. And we've seen in cities all over the world the ability to change much faster, use the crisis in order, projects that had been discussed for 5, 10, 20 years that then were made in just a matter of weeks. And so this approach, which is a trial and error approach, I think is something the cities all over the world experimented with. And I hope that this stays with us in the long term, because it will really make our cities much more responsive, especially in the face, in the wake of all the new technologies, urban technologies that are going to transform them.
Now, are there any cities, Carlo, in particular, that are changing faster than others?
Now, I helped the World Economy Forum Global Future Council on Cities. And actually, one of the cities that have been featured mostly in Europe for this has been Milan. One reason is that Milan was one of the first cities to be hit by COVID, and so started developing this kind of very interesting, quick feedback loop, trying something, see how people respond, and eventually, redo it or fix it. And I've seen that applied more and more. I think, Stockholm is also moving very, very fast, and I've seen similar responses also in cities all over the world. I don't think we can generalize based on country, but it's more like a matter of mayor by mayor, city by city.
Now, I actually lived in Beijing from 2008 to 2010, and I remember remarking month to month how quickly change happened there. Even back then, it was palpable. Now I have friends in China who say it's changing faster than ever before, and the Chinese government is rapidly moving to digitize the entire country using COVID as a way to sort of push that through. I'm curious, Neil, there's this stereotype from the outside of, smart helmets and thermometer guns on a sort of mass scale. What is really happening there?
Well, I think China is well prepared even before the COVID from a smart city perspective. I'm here in Shenzhen, and there is an app called iShenzhen, and every citizen of Shenzhen can use that to check his tax payment, can check with the public facilities around him and her. And obviously with COVID, now you have one additional function, which is the health code. You can use that and to basically check if there's any venues that you should avoid. And then obviously, if you have a green code, that means that you are relatively, I think, safe. So I think, it's very important that we already actually have done a lot along the line of digitalization of many of the services, both private sector as well as public sector. On the private sector, obviously, ride-sharing, takeout business has been very popular in China. I mean, Didi has been seeing probably highest the number of rides per day, among all countries. I think China can, use those tools to quickly tackle the issues and challenges when COVID happened early this year.
So, Jean, obviously, you're the perfect person to address that. Talk to us about the hit that the ride-sharing business took, all of the measures involved in protecting the drivers, protecting the passengers, and sort of how the business has recovered. Like, where is ride-sharing? Where is Didi in China now?
Sure. When the pandemic came, the business basically came off cliff suddenly. So it was quite dramatic around January, February, and we gradually see recovery starting from April. And right now, we are fully back. We are fully back and all-time high. We are serving 60 million rides every day, which is very nice. So what we have done over the past, more than half a year, basically, number one, we need to make sure our drivers and passengers are safe. So, we urge our drivers to wear masks, encourage our passengers to wear masks. We send out free masks for everyone. And also, we have set up this relief fund for our drivers and passengers, especially for the quarantined, if drivers got quarantined or infected, just in case. And thirdly, we have been working with the insurance company and leasing companies so we can extend the lease payment. So there have been a lot of things we have done in other countries like Latin America, in Australia. We have also installed plastic dividers so that we can keep passengers and drivers separated, so to lower the infection chance. So there have been a number of things. One thing I feel extremely proud of was the Didi Hero initiative. Because back then, I don't know, Neil, if you remember, there were no public transportation in a lot of cities. And doctors and nurses, healthcare givers, they just can't get around. After a whole day work, they have to walk home. A lot of them need to walk for an hour or even 2 hours. So what we have done is really organize a team of drivers, and they volunteer themselves. More than 140,000 drivers in Wuhan volunteer themselves to offer free rides for the drivers. And that's what we have done. So we learned to be a resilient organization, and we learn how to ride out the cycles through the whole pandemic period.
Meantime, while things might be getting back to a sort of normal in China, cases are skyrocketing almost everywhere else. Carlo, you're not just gathering data about cities, you're also an architect, you are an inventor, you're an engineer, and I understand you're working on turning shipping containers into mobile isolation and ICU wards that could be, pitched within a matter of hours. Tell us about that.
Sure, that was one of the first projects we did when the pandemic hit. I think like many of us, we asked ourselves, how can we contribute with our skills to what is happening? And, the interesting thing is that we need, again, it's about innovation. We need to find new ways to address the crisis very, very quickly. And so we wanted to build more ICUs and wanted to scale up quickly. What we did was actually do the project in open source. So share, first of all, develop all the drawings with a group. The group, within a matter of a couple of weeks, grew to over 1,000 people. And then share the drawings so that different people can actually take them and use them for fabrication. And the amazing thing is that by doing this, by parallelizing, by doing what people do with software, with open source software, we were able to do something normally in a traditional design approach would take at least 6 months to cut it down to 6 weeks. And that was, I think, for us was very, very exciting. Now there's companies fabricating curapods. They're called curapods all over the world, here in Italy, in the Emirates, in the US, in Canada. One of my favorites is actually a team of people in Canada used to turn shipping containers into containers for growing marijuana legally. It's legal in Canada. And actually, they use our drawings in order to change their business. Now they're making intensive care units for the Canadian market. So somehow, again, the virus is code, genetic code that replicates in the taxas. And if you design code, use the code of design, the code of human intelligence in a similar way, by spreading and replicating and parallelizing, we can fight fast in a much better way than how we do normally. Again, an example of how the crisis forces us to rethink the way we operate. Oh, did you lose Emily? Should we just continue the conversation here? It looks like there's a problem. We can continue the conversation amongst ourselves.
Hi, and I'm just taking off my sweater a little bit here. Technology, it can be our savior and it can be our nemesis. So we're going to hopefully get Emily back up. In the meantime, Jean, Carlo, Neil, I'm going to continue with the conversation, if I may. Emily getting you guys off to a wonderful start. And I want to jump in because you guys really laid the ground of kind of what we've seen post-pandemic, some of the responses. And I think let's go to technology. I mean, do we think that there are technologies out there that will ultimately kind of save our cities? And let me bring in Neil on this, because I do wonder, what is it that we're going to kind of hold in this moment and that will carry us into the future? And I do wonder what you think about that.
Well, I think many of those applications had been there before, and their adoption has accelerated because of COVID. And I do believe some of those will stay there for the consumers to continue to use for many years to come, because this has served a great period of time for education purpose. For example, online hospital services, which is a initiative that many hospital has taken in the last several years. But during COVID period of time, you see that service has been picked up pretty dramatically, thanks to obviously technology being offered. But also very importantly now that many of those hospitals have secured an online hospital service license, which gives them the opportunity to sell online medical services. And they can leverage those large e-commerce companies to deliver the drugs. And at the same time, we are seeing the local government allow that the medical insurance can cover the drug and medical services. That give another boost to online hospital service, and which I think will be probably be a reflection point for the China medical sector, and I'm pretty sure that many of those new applications will be developed along those platforms.
I'm back, Carol. Thank you so much for jumping in. Jean, I want to talk to you about how some of the innovations that Didi has been making at this time. You've been working on piloting grocery delivery, which, as I understand it, started off with trying to help people get essential goods delivered, and now it's growing incredibly quickly. I caught you on the phone in Chengdu, where you're just experimenting, but already orders are up to like 7 million a day. Talk to us about that project.
Sure. I think that's also some initiative we have been taking after post-pandemic because we noticed people prefer to stay home and order groceries. So we started the initiative around February, and the team worked really, really hard. So we have seen very promising numbers. It means there's huge value in this market. And at the same time, we have also been trying some other innovation. For example, we just launched the first version of EV designed for rideshare, worldwide first designed for rideshare version of EV, and that's very rideshare driven, if you will. So we have, the power sliding doors, so people can get in and out more easily, much more spacious space, less space for this type of car, this grade of cars, and also, inside of car entertaining system, et cetera, et cetera. So these will be very popular, we would imagine, because people would want an alternative to public transportation. So we want to make sure we can offer more comfortable and affordable services. So after trying everything on software, on technology, online technology, we have been going hardware. So that's the new initiative we feel extremely excited about. And also autonomous driving, of course. We think that will be the ultimate solution for safety, for health problems. So that's also something we have been investing very heavily in.
Now, as much as there's been a flight to suburbs in the midst of the pandemic, COVID is actually having a huge impact on the urban poor. And the UN estimates that 68% of the world's population will actually live in urban areas by 2050. Carlo, I'm curious, what should architects, what should governments, what should urban planners be doing to make sure that cities, as they change so rapidly, are also resilient, greener, and more equitable?
Yeah, well, I'll go back to a couple of things to what we were saying before, right? Ultimately, cities, the way we think about the future of cities should really rest in the hands of citizens. So I think it's creating healthy feedback loops of innovation, trying something, get people's feedback, decide what works, what doesn't work, and by doing that, accelerate urban evolution. I think that as a method seems to be the best way to achieve what you're saying. There's not one recipe fit all cities. Every city is different, even different climate, different materials, different morphology of the city means they will have different type of responses, but it's more about the methodology to do this. Now, I want to add something about what was just mentioned about mobility, and certainly, I can see all of those innovations happening and going to change a lot the ride-hailing market. At the same time, there's something I think is very interesting, which is micromobility. And micromobility, for me, is interesting for two reasons. The first reason is that certainly is much more efficient than a car, a 5-seater, to move like 70, 80 kilos for less than 2 miles on average. So micromobility is much more efficient in terms of energy usage or street usage. Micromobility, as you know, is e-bikes, scooters, and many more form factors that I think will emerge in the next few years. Now, the problem is that micromobility has been losing a lot of money, bleeding a lot of money over the past 2 or 3 years. And it would be really bad if it were to miss and lose that mode of transportation. Micromobility is also making public transportation much more appealing because you can take the subway and then do your last mile with a scooter. You jump from one mode into another mode, some kind of multimodality on the spot. Now, we are working on that at MIT. Actually, one of our companies, the first company we spun off for the lab, called Super Pedestrian, that operates micromobility with, which is called Link. And there we're using a lot of artificial intelligence to do self-maintenance and try to turn an industry that at the moment doesn't work into something that could really have a future in our cities. At the moment, we have solutions, but most of them are not financially viable. So if we fix it, I think micromobility could actually be a great, open up a great future, both in everywhere on the planet, including in the global south, for rethinking mobility in cities.
We have quite an eloquent question, a few eloquent questions coming in from Chinese social media. Neil, I'll throw this one out to you. Remote education and work during COVID have exposed a big urban digital divide. How can governments and tech firms narrow that digital divide? I know you're doing a lot of work in online education, so figured you could swing at that.
Well, I think online education really have played a role to providing a level playground for everyone. I think it's very, very important that such services could be provided online, because in many cities in China, you really lack of high quality teachers. But with online programs today, for example, through our portfolio company Joyabang and VIP Kid, kids in a very remote city could actually enjoy the very best teacher through such a platform. And I think that's a very important way to narrow the gap between the different quality of education offered in the big city versus the countryside. And online education has clearly been accelerated during the COVID. In the past, people used that mostly as a tutoring tool for kids, but now we're talking about mainstream. We're talking about the junior high school, the senior high school, even the college have adopted those programs and tools to reach out all the kids. Some of those may not able to travel to the classroom in person.
Now, Gene, there has been. Oh, go ahead, Carlo. Yeah.
Oh. No, I wanted to add something very quick about this. I think certainly education is going to be disrupted. And there's a very interesting model which is emerging now. I was just talking the other day to some Harvard students, and what they did, they actually created something that you could call like a small commune or kibbutz to study together. And I think that's what is missing to just online education. We've seen online education, MOOCs, that were very popular a few years ago, and then we realized a university education is much more than that. But if you combine the MOOCs with also the fact that people can come together and create small communities, small campuses, distributed across the planet, in big cities, in small places, I think that model could really be the model that closes the gap, as you're saying, and tries to develop a new university model. We're still working with a university that was designed in the year 1000 in Bologna, and then in Oxbridge, in Cambridge and Oxford, a couple of centuries later. So I think it's probably time to rethink it.
Now, we actually do have results of our poll question. And a reminder, the question is, which technologies will take off post-COVID? Facial recognition coming in at 21%, autonomous cars, robot and drone deliveries, virtual presence at 48%. That is the winner. Neil, does that sound about right to you?
Well, I'm pretty sure this is probably a very important product, and people are very looking forward to. But I think at this moment, mostly those applications are limited to games or some specific industrial vertical applications. It's going to take some time because we need hardware to improvement. We need 5G and all that. So I think I'm very optimistic, but probably it's going to take a bit while for such services to be more sort of appealing to broader base of users.
I'm hoping the next time we do this, we can all be with each other virtually, because it would be a lot smoother. I want to talk about drones and robotics. And Gene, any chances of Didi delivering groceries via drones in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. We can always do it. For the robotics, we launched the autonomous a robo-taxi in June, and we have seen very good results and a lot of very positive feedback from our users. And we do believe this is the ultimate solution, when we face problems, like now in pandemic. It's the ultimate solution to kill accidents, right? However, it will take some time to get it commercially effective, right? It can, in small lab tests, it all worked really well. However, we believe it would need to take some time to really get it to people and work effectively. But that's something we have been working on.
Now, before I go,
I just want to add one thing. Where we talked about pandemic and, as a private business, what we have learned is really to do the right thing, to do the right and hard thing and keep doing it. So, for example, investing in autonomous driving or investing in safety or investing in offline supporting systems. These are all very long-term investment work and take a lot of effort and commitment. So that's what we have learned from, the whole pandemic.
Now, before we go, I want to touch on.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to touch on the political environment because, technology is great, but we also need the partnership of government. And former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger told our New Economy Forum audience yesterday that he's worried that the tensions between the U.S. and China could escalate to a military conflict at some point if something doesn't change. I'm curious how the market environment, the geopolitical environment, in the midst of a pandemic, Neil, is impacting the strategy and the choices that you are making.
Not much, I have to say. I think, in the last 10 years, the two areas we have been focused a lot in China, one is digital technology, which means obviously every single sector is going through digitalizations, whether it's consumer technology or whether it's enterprise software. And I see this actually has been picking up very rapidly the last 12 months. The other area which we have spent a lot of time on is healthcare. And obviously during the COVID period, we see people paying more attention to this area. And so our investment in the medtech and in the biotech area has been paid off pretty handsomely. And we're very lucky and proud that some of our portfolio company participated in launching the RNA testing kit. And one of our portfolio company actually was a UK-based vaccine company who worked with Oxford and AstraZeneca in try to come up with the most advanced vaccine vaccine product to address the COVID. So I think the scene hasn't really changed, and I only see these continue to become very important trends in China in the next several years.
So that is the new reality I guess we're going to live in. Carlo, we have just a few seconds left. Are we going to recognize our post-pandemic world 10 years from now? Will it have changed so much that we won't be able to believe it?
Well, I think probably this pandemic has been accelerating a lot of existing trends. Somehow it also happened at the right time. Think about the same pandemic 20 years ago without the ability of working remotely, of doing smart work and so on. We've been totally different. We've been much more stuck. And so all this acceleration, I think, yes, we're going to see it in 10 years. At the same time, I think, this is not going to be a big change for cities. Cities have seen many pandemics over the past 10,000 years, since the beginning of cities, around the time 10,000 years ago. Many pandemics, even more devastating pandemics, like the pandemic in the 14th century in Venice killed over 60% of the population, and still the city went back. And I think this time as well, we'll see big cities come back quite soon. I believe they are kind of a powerful magnet to bring us together in physical space. That's what we need. That's what we need and what we miss, especially now. I mean, you said it just before. Next time we need to meet in person, like we did last time.
Absolutely. Let's hope. Jean, we got a little bit more time, and I'm curious, what do you think, based on all the work that you're doing at Didi, what does 10 years, the world, China, the business look like to you?
Sure. I think because of the shared vehicle, electric vehicle, and autonomous driving, at least we will see much fewer parking lots inside of the city, and people will use more bikes, e-bikes, like what Carlo said, and also, people will prefer to order groceries at home. So it will be a greener city. It will be more cleaner air, and there will be a lot of parks in the cities.
Neil, would you agree with that based on what you're seeing from entrepreneurs right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all those technology applications really depend on a more advanced mobile connectivity. So 5G, I think, is very important, and obviously all those applications could be run on 5G in a more effective way. And if you look at 10 years, probably we're going to looking at 6G. We don't know what technology is going to be come out of that, but at least we all can imagine that everything will be digitalized in a way that there's no limitation on bandwidth. And obviously, I also feel like robotics, as you mentioned, will come to every single corner of our life, not only in industrial applications, but also probably as home appliance, as important tools for hospitals, for hotels and restaurants, and so on.
Now, we're getting more questions from the audience, and there seems to be a theme about resilience, about the poor. The latest question coming in from Tracy Zhou from Jiangsu in China about how we build more resilient cities. Jean, there's been an urgency here in the United States when it comes to gig workers to give them better protections. How are you thinking about that in terms of, potentially rewriting the social contract with drivers, with the folks who are delivering your groceries, who are, I'm sure, grateful to have a job, but would also like the protections that would come along with it in a contract position?
Sure. Didi is now, I would say, one of the largest gig platforms, and we are also the largest flexible work platform. We actually support work opportunities for more than 14 million drivers, right? And a lot of them, this is their second job, and 4 million of them, are laid off workers. 10% are women. A lot of them are single mom or, work from home mom. So, I think the point for Didi is how can we provide more income, more meaningful income for them? Because everyone, needs a second chance. A lot of them have been laid off and, don't want to go out for interviews. So that's the minimum we can do. And that's what we have been thinking about. And in terms of protection, for example, during the pandemic, we have set up the relief fund, and we have been working with insurance companies together to provide better insurance package for our drivers. And we have been working on the ecosystem so we can build a more healthy ecosystem for our users, for our drivers on this platform.
Now, Carlo, given that, Neil founded an online travel business, Jean is in the business of ride sharing, do you think that transportation and the way we move around the world will ever go back to normal post-pandemic? Like, are we going to go back to riding buses and subways to work? How many of us are actually going to go back to work at all?
Yeah, no, I think we need to go back to work. Actually, we've been doing some big data analytics on the MIT campus. So what you see is that, if you remove physical space, we closed the campus at MIT in the middle of March 2020, still closed. It will be closed until the spring, most likely. So what you see is that when you remove physical space, then our social networks become much more fragile. We lose a lot of the weak ties. The weak ties connect us to new ideas, to new people, to new groups, new different social circles. And I think physical space is very important for that. So because of that, I really believe we'll go back to physical space. And think also about all what we've been doing, all the money we've invested over the past few years for team building. That was about, bringing people together in the same place and doing activities together. That is certainly going to be even more important in the future. At the same time, I think that we will also keep the flexibility we came to enjoy over the past few months. And so if we keep that flexibility, still it means, we need to rethink a lot of our offices, doing much more hot desking. If we go to the office, so as I said, I believe we will go back to the office, but maybe we'll go just 3 days per week, even 2 days per week. At the moment in Paris, the rule is 2 days of smart working, 2 plus 3. So 2 days of smart working, 3 days in the office. Some people suggest it's going to be in the future more like 3 plus 2. But whatever the balance is, then that means, we need to rethink the office because of this new pattern, to think about the choreography that will allow us to achieve more when we are together in the office, even if we spend less time there. Now, just to finish, another thing I think we will not get back is certainly about international travel. I think, we're all conversant now with all these kind of tools, even, just what we're using now or similar. And so I think the crazy things we've done of this kind of round-the-world trips for a 2-hour meeting, hopefully that will not come back. That was a big toll on the planet and on us.
Hopefully the virtual presence capabilities will help with that. Neil, 2 of the most prominent VCs here in the United States, Bill Gurley and Reid Hoffman, told me that they are now investing in entrepreneurs that they've never met, companies that don't have offices or office space. Reid Hoffman said that, sometimes he's wondering, is this really real? Are you seeing that in China, or is the state of play more normal at this point?
Well, I do think, a lot of those companies now use virtual meetings and different type of online working tools to, get connected, even though, they, probably have, different, physical offices. But at the same time, I think people will still want to get together. I mean, I feel like, you have to get together, to build company cultures and get to know each other. So, I mean, it's very important to use those online tools, but at the same time, there's something which is not replaceable by physical, meetings. So we do obviously meet some entrepreneur online and made investment decision, especially for early stage. But at the end of the day, we still love to meet them in person.
Jean, as you think about your business, having gone through such a titanic hit, do you see it actually going back to normal, or will things about Didi, the way you do business, the way that you operate, be forever changed as a result of the pandemic and what you've learned?
Sure. First of all, we felt very lucky that, the business came back very nicely, and, it's all-time high again. However, the business definitely changed. The organization transformed. We have learned a lot. First of all, we've learned how to get courage, doing the right thing, to make the right call. There are a lot of very tough decisions to be made during the pandemic, right? Whether we form the task force, how do we take the risk? And secondly, how can we be true to ourselves? Because before, for young companies like this, we tend to, picture a very beautiful future. However, after pandemic, right, we have learned, everyone should be true to themselves, and, we need to learn, it could not be perfect. We are not perfect, so we just have to try our best. So, I think that's the second thing we have learned, and we have been doing it. We have been, holding all hands meeting online and, tell everyone what was going on during the pandemic. So everyone got, aligned. And third thing we have learned is empathy, again, understanding people's needs, understand, people from different countries, because we have global business, how users, what users want during this crisis. So there are a lot of we have learned, and I do believe that also how our country wins this battle, right? Courage, to be true to ourselves, to be transparent, and also to be empathetic and taking care of people.
And with that uplifting and eloquent thought, I think we will end it there. Jean Liu, Neil Shen, Carlo, Ratti, thank you all for joining us. I'm excited to see which of your predictions hold true for our world and our cities. Thank you all for taking the time to join us.